Guys, I'm gonna be boosting my 9CI Tippmann bottle here that utilizes the Bellevue washers. DK just did a video on this, and me and him chatted about upping the pressure on one of these bottles, and I think the original consensus was 900, and I see he just posted this video, and he's up to like 975. So he's using two of the Bellevue washers. I'm only gonna do one today because I'm testing the theory on my M17 that my auto fire may be due in part to the type of regulator in the bottle. So in a first strike bottle, you have a spring like this that acts upon the piston, the valve seal, whatever you want to call it. So springs are notoriously, I shouldn't say inaccurate, but they can vary quite significantly. And you can imagine inside that regulator, every time you fire your marker, this spring compresses and opens, opening, closing the regulator and allowing that charge into your marker. And that's happening at, well, against 3,000, and then it's regulating it down. So you can imagine the amount of force that little spring is taking. And I should say, I'll show you an actual FS spring. So it's little, but it's thick. This spring, I can't compress this by hand. You can see that. And that's just a regular standard standard output spring. Let's see, this would be a high pressure spring. So you can see they're pretty much identical lengths, but the gauge on this, the wire gauge, the thickness of the wire is thicker. So it's acting greater force against the piston. So actually, here's a piston. I didn't even know why I didn't show you guys this in the first place. This is what's inside your FS regulator, like that. Inside a Tippmann regulator or an HK Army regulator or some of the more, I shouldn't say inexpensive bottles, but they seem to share the same type of system. Now, in some older ones, you're gonna find older Tippmann regs, you might find these springs. But most of the new guys are Bellevue washers, as are Ninja tanks. Again, older Ninjas had springs like this. So what I'm gonna do different though is I have some Bellevues here that actually I bought on AliExpress. And if you look on AliExpress, the regs look awfully familiar. So this is an AliExpress regulator. And this is a Tippmann regulator. Looks familiar, doesn't it, right? So I just bought these for dirt cheap on there. If they work, or I shouldn't say if they work, if they fit in this bottle, I'll put the link in the description. They're dirt cheap. Shipping was like, I think $1.50 or something. Yeah, they're from China and it takes a while, but lots of times I got all the time in the world, so I'll save a buck when I can. So let's open this guy up. 1, 2 set screws, opposite of each other. They look like they are 5/64. That is correct. Oh, and before you do anything like this, guys, make sure your bottle is degassed. Even though the gauge says 0, there can be a minuscule amount of air in there, and it can send this cap flying when you undo it. Send your regulator and all your washers flying when you get in there. So safety first, degas your bottle, check it with your finger. If you can push that pin by hand, it's degassed. And yes, it was 5/64 Allen key. I think I'm just gonna remove these completely. It may not be necessary, but on a Ninja bottle, I found if you didn't remove the grub screws, set screws, completely, it actually scored the threads when you were undoing the cap or the bonnet. So Ninja refers to this as a bonnet, this top piece here. And it shouldn't be terribly tight. When I reassemble it, it'll just be by hand. Let's see here. Oh, there we go. It's just a little slippy. Like that. There's your valve pin. Just take that out, set it aside, and then pull out the piston here. And there we have it. So, I'm just having a look at how many washers are in here. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, oops. Try that again. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. There are 12 concave Bellevue washers and then 2 flat. So 1 flat on each end. So what I'm going to do is just add 1 Bellevue washer to this. So just gotta get your fingernail in between there. The rag is greased, so they tend to stick together. Come on. Just kind of gonna wiggle it back and forth. And take off the flat. Oops. That's the valve pin spring. So just set that aside too. Forgot to take it out. Moment of truth. Let's see if these guys fit. And it looks like they do. So I will put the link in the description. I'm just gonna put one on. One extra one on. And I've got them back to back. So when I say back to back, I mean the concaves they're dished together. You can see that. So I just added one more to the bottom of the stack like that. Now, if you're gonna mess with your rag, guys, and you can play with these in any number of order, so you can rearrange these in kind of any pattern you want, and they're all gonna be a little bit different output pressure. There is a method to the madness. It's way longer than I could ever explain to you, but the most important thing is whatever you're doing, do not let the stack exceed that bottom O-ring. If you do, if your stack exceeds that bottom O-ring, what you're essentially doing is bypassing this regulated piston, and you will be sending 3,000 PSI straight out your marker, into your marker. So don't do that. Now, if you did that, the safety features should take over here. So if you went beyond this black bottom wash O-ring, that would increase your output to essentially 3,000 or whatever your bottle pressure was set to. So 3,000 or 4,500 or your 2 common ones. That is going to blow your 1.8K disc here. It should. These are safeties, they're built in. I don't ever mess with these, and nor should you. So The other one is the 5000K. This one prevents overfilling. So if for some reason your pump's auto stop, your compressor's auto stop failed, or there can be a bunch of reasons why this bottle could become overfilled, but I do never leave them unattended as I'm filling them. I also don't kind of hover over them as often as I can anyway. So putting it back together, just drop it back in there. Forget your valve pin spring, drop it in there. There you go. Drop your valve pin back in like that. Make sure that goes through the hole. Hand tight is good enough. I'm just still pretty greasy, so I'm just gonna put a cloth on it. There we go. Set your bonnet screws back in. These just act as a lock so that it doesn't twist off when you're taking it off your marker. They are important as I have accidentally unthreaded the bonnet on my Ninja SHP. Now I didn't thread it off far enough that it was a catastrophic failure, but oops. It did release a whole lot of air all at once and required a short change. So there we go. She's all locked in. We'll air it up and we'll test the output pressure. Okay, she's all aired up. When I am testing and fooling with the regulator and washers, Bellevue washers or shims and other regulators like the First Strike regulators, I generally only fill the bottle up to about 1,000. I think this one's, well, got to 15 on this. I got distracted, but 1,000 is a relatively safe pressure to test. And the reason is if you fill this to 3 right away and you're not sure what you're doing in here, you get what's called reg creep, where the output pressure is gonna creep up till it exceeds your 1.8 disc, and then that's gonna pop. So if you keep your pressure low initially, like 1,000 to 1,200, that reg creep shouldn't exceed your 1.8. It'll allow you to test this and go, holy smoke, something is wrong. And then you can just deplete the air in the bottle and try again. So that's the reason I only go to 1,000 or 1,200. So let's test this guy. Stand up for this one. Let's see what she's at. Well, would you look at that, guys? 900 on the button. That is what I want. Now, the Bellevues, the originals that were in this regulator, have been exercised. They have probably broken in, just like regular springs, they do wear in, but these are much more stable just due to their shape and their manufacturing tolerances. So that 900, because I added one brand new washer, it may settle a little, but we're gonna call it 900. I may retest after I can at least verify. I put this in my M17 and we see if it is a reg issue or it's something else. Okay, so now that I know it's safe to pump to 3,000, I have done so. Gauge is back on. It is at 0. Let's just confirm it stayed at 900. And it's about 920-ish. Yeah, 920, 925. So there is, like I said, when you fill this tank completely up, you get a little bit of extra juice there. So that is reasoning why I don't fill the tanks up full to begin with. So let's move to the next test, and that is plugging this guy into the CQ, Mr. Frosty. See if it affects my auto fire.